在加州3月30号，我们继续研究华严经的十回向品。All right, are we recording? Is recording in progress? I hope so. Okay, I think all our technology should be in line. Hope my voice is loud enough. People can hear me. We've got a new microphone today, so if I'm not clear or not loud, let me know. I will ring the bell 3 times, and then Celeste is going to request Dharma for us all the way from Hong Kong, and then we will begin. 我敲眼镜敲3下，然后各位可以就合掌跟着 Celeste 从香港来请法。Okay, we ready? Here we go. Okay, Celeste, if you'd like to request Dharma, please go ahead and do so.
恭请大德圣听，为此法会，济切众生，听转妙法轮，教导我们如何了生脱死，离苦得乐，殊证无生。View the Sangha with great virtue, out of compassion, for the sake of this assembly and all living beings. Please turn the wonderful Dharma wheel to teach us how to live suffering and attain bliss and end birth and death and quickly realize non-birth.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one.
Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one.
Namo saranto suchedoye alahadi samya sambuddhoshe.
Namo satanto suchedoye alahadi samya sambuddhoshe.
无上甚深微妙法，百千万劫难遭遇。我今见闻得受持，愿解如来真实义。Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered even in billions of eons. But now we see and hear it and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. Alrighty, Celeste, appreciate the Dharma request. Be happy to accept. Celeste 出来请法。If people would like to be the Dharma requester, please send an email in or connect with our Master Tignon. He'll be happy to set us up, and you can request Dharma. Now, let me get settled here, cross my legs. There we go. We are going to invite the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas of the Flowered Island Assembly, gods, the dragons, the Eightfold Pantheon to join us. So let's add a little bit of music, do it with a melody. 我们现在准备迎请天龙八部护法上身，就参加我们的法会，祝福各位拥护道场来。 佛菩萨，南无大方广佛华严海会佛菩萨，南无大方广华严海佛菩萨。Moving right along, we would like to acknowledge the Pomo people who practiced spiritual connections to the earth and to all creation on the ancestral land, the Ukiah Valley, for tens of thousands of years. And today we acknowledge them as traditional custodians and original storytellers of these lands. We offer our respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging, and to all First Nations people whose sovereignty was never ceded. 就说我们恭敬地承认 Pomo 人是我们寺院所在地的传统居士者和守护人。我们向过去、现在和未来的长者们致敬，并且向所有从来没有放弃主权的第一民族的原住民也致敬。The bell sound wide resounds throughout 100 million worlds. The Buddha's law is heard and spread all throughout the triple world. The wondrous sounds that everywhere fill the Dharma realm with peace. May those who hear it gain the strength to follow in faith the Buddha's path. 众生传3000劫内，佛法扬闻一国中，共寻其法界和平，第一报贪恼后德。Okay, go. Thank you for joining, everyone. We're almost at 100 friends already, coming from all over North America, Canada, and East Asia, as well as Oceania. Glad you're all here, looking at who has come, delighted. Okay, excellent. Old Dharma friends who gathered here. All right. From different parts of Australia as well. Okay, 好的，欢迎各位来，全世界就绕着地球，大家都来参加我们的法会。On a Sunday, in the Christian world that I grew up in, Sunday is an important day to gather and worship. And it's also a time to come together, to bring ourselves to a sacred space where together we sing, we hear good words, we speak to the non-material parts of life, we pray, that is, and we make offerings, we share, we do some giving, and we see each other and sit together in silence. That's a very important part of it. The communal aspects, the social aspects. So that's back before the internet. It was less important in my generation than it was in my parents' generation, but since the internet has divided us into attention silos where we each find our own small group to associate with virtually but not physically, I think churches have become less important. That institution, I don't believe that people's need for community and for an opportunity to address the spiritual is any less than it ever was. In fact, it might be more so, in that the breakdown of nature is pushing many people towards a need to address something bigger that hasn't gone away, that hasn't broken. So how are we doing as a community online, listening to sutras? This Buddhist experience of 听经, 讲经, this is quite interesting how it compares and contrasts with our need for a weekly spiritual input. Let me translate that. 就说我自己个人长大的时候，家庭是基督教，在美国中部，我们每个星期天就剩下几个小时到了教堂。很多家庭每个星期天早上 go to church 就上教堂，大约150个人差不多大家穿得干净一点洗脸梳头发就去一起坐在那个木头凳子上一起唱那个赞上帝的歌曲，大家一起听牧师讲几句好语好话，然后可以听几句从圣经的一些上帝所谓上帝讲的道理然后可以赚钱供养有个机会扶持这个宗教。大家有没有注意？我没有说种福，没有那个道理，他们不说。我还话说回来，有这么说的 ，It is more blessed to give than receive。对了，有这么说不像佛教这样讲。还有呢，很重要就是星期天到了教堂是做什么的？大家在那儿不出声，一起坐下，不能说打坐，不是那种参禅，不是回光返照，不是那种的行为，那不是那个法门。不过呢，大家一起做就求静，那个很重要。还有，在那个时候，每个礼拜一天，或者呢，每个礼拜几个小时，大家对生灵接触，就不是一种红尘的世界努力赚钱，不是在这个物质文明在那儿发财，就默祷祈祷很重要。好的，那就是我提那个干什么？就说我们没有一个教堂现在，不过现在116个人参加今天的讲经法会。我们用电脑、用网络 才能在这个I should get my vocabulary here in cyberspace. Anybody know what is cyberspace in Chinese? Can we look that one up? I used to have when I was in China last, I had my whole high-tech vocabulary list in cyberspace. 我们在这个网络那个地方集合来网络空间，好的，就是网络空间那里就大家会不会说会面？我们因为看不到面孔，会我们是会 square 会我们的黑色的方形的东西，在这研究佛经，听佛陀的道理虚拟空间，虚拟空间。OK, thank you, Yihuan. Thank you, 林峰。OK, 那么问题在哪里？就说现在的年轻人去不去教堂？我听说全世界参加教堂的人越来越少可是呢，我相信我们人间的心，我们一般人类需要一个机会跟神灵结缘、求胜，这样子问那个重要的问题，没有少了，没有减少，甚至于比以前更需要，因为一个很大的因素是因为大自然界这个崩溃了，我们这个气候改变climate change 就让很多人不信教可是知道现在不像以前。好像这个气候有多少破坏了，所以更需要一个地方去求真理，去求答案，求一个路可走，一个道路可走，怎么走，怎么做，怎么办 ？So, okay, that's just what I want to say. It just occurred to me that every week we come together. There's 100 of us here. Is it like church? And the answer is no, it's not. How is it different? And why is it significantly different? I think the answer is in what we do while we are here for 90 minutes. And I've introduced a little bit of music because I think that helps. And Shifu encouraged us to do that. I've introduced storytelling as well. We listen to Master Xuanzang's stories. So that is also a way to include, to bring it to life a little more than a simple drone of one monk's voice. Last week, we had more of a dialogue. I asked people's opinion. I introduced Kalabinka's translation, Bhikshu Heng Shure's translation of this is volume 1. It's huge. It is, in fact, 870 pages. Volume 1, there are 3 volumes, 870 pages. We've introduced his voice to the translation, and I would like to continue to do that with the intention being here on take advantage of us being in cyberspace to bring to life some of these principles, and especially the goal, of course, is to familiarize people with the Avatamsaka Sutra, the Bodhisattva path, and the Bodhi resolve, and to get people to develop an interest in it, so that you yourself can feel confident that you can open these texts. Bring the principles to life in your life. So that's the goal, the bigger goal. So how do we do that? How do we expediently open these texts to people? That's the question. And you can all find the chat box right there on your control panel in Zoom, even if you're on your phone. If you're listening on a telephone, that's harder. But if you have a smartphone, you can, on Zoom, you can type in questions and comments, and we'll be happy to study them. 我们的目的就是说每个礼拜我们不上教堂，可是呢，我们上网一种网络的一种空间，研究佛经，就希望华严经的真理、菩萨道的真理、菩提心的重要性，可以跟大家让你们各位有兴趣自己去研究就更生一种求道的心，那就成功了所以呢，我们Zoom 这个软件有一个 chat， 有个画像 chat box。你们各位有 idea， 你们有主意，有其什么观念都可以写进去。我不一定会看得懂，不过我会收回来，然后慢慢的去翻译然后可以一点比一点就把每个礼拜的这个讲经说法的这个小时，这个一个90分钟，把它活动起来了，大家都会觉得蛮有兴趣的Okay, that's the goal. Alrighty. Now, where we left off last week, we started last week with 41 of the 100 true suchness analogies. Now we're down to 32. And I'm going to open Kalavinka's translation, so we'll have it available. Okay. We were working through times, right? There was the minutes, hours, days, months. See here, that's blue. There we go. There was fortnights, and then eons, and limitless eons. And so now we'll start right here. Eons, okay? Right there. Do that one. Too small, too big. Can you all see it? There we go. All right, ready? Piru Zhenru Pian. I'm sorry, one more time. 再来. Piru Zhenru 变成坏劫，善根回向，亦复如是。住一切劫，清净无染，教化众生，咸令清净。Just as true thusness is present throughout eons of formation and decay, so too are Bodhisattva's dedication of good roots, in that it is immaculate and endures throughout all eons, edifying living beings, bringing them to purity. Just as true suchness pervades the kalpas of creation and destruction, so too it is with his dedications of roots of goodness, for they abide in all kalpas, pure and undefiled, teaching beings and enabling the purification of them all. Yeah, may it be so. Piru Zhenru Jin Wei Lai Ji, 善根回向，亦复如是。今为来际，修诸菩萨清净妙行，成满大愿，无有退转。Just as true suchness extends beyond the limits of the future, so too does their dedication of good roots extend beyond the limits of the future, during which they cultivate all bodhisattvas' pure and wonderful practices, perfectly fulfilling all great vows without ever retreating. So that's the future. Just as true suchness lasts to the very end of the future, so too it is with his dedications of roots of goodness, for they last to the end of future time as he cultivates all the pure and marvelous practices of all bodhisattvas and never retreats from fulfilling his great vows. I would change the pronoun in that one. So it's they, those bodhisattvas. He, immediately my mind goes to who? Who are we talking about? But if you say bodhisattvas in plural, collective, then they, all bodhisattvas do that. That allows you and me, any man or woman, to step in to that description. Of course, in Chinese, the pronouns don't matter. 他们就菩萨就对了。Okay, so that is 今未来即未来。我们在讲时间，上边都有什么？有白天晚间，有黑暗的夜晚，有光明的白天，有半月，有时间次第时节，有年岁，有什么什么什么成坏节，有未来季。Okay, we're going through time， 很多时间的分别。Okay, 菩萨会相功的不变。Okay, there we go. All right, next one. Right there. Ready? 譬如真如遍诸三世，善根回向亦复如是，令诸众生于一刹那间三世佛，未曾一念而有舍离。Just as true suchness is ever present throughout the 3 periods of time, so too is their dedication of good roots, in that it enables all living beings within a single kshana to behold the Buddhas of the 3 periods of time without turning away from them for even an instant. Just as true suchness pervasively abides throughout the 3 periods of time, so too it is with their I'll change it. This is not what Heng Sure said, but I'll change the pronoun. So it is with their dedication of good roots, of roots of goodness, for in but a single kshana, they enable all beings to see the Buddhas of the 3 periods of time, and then never leave them for even a single mind moment. Oh my goodness. A single mind moment. Tweet below the whistle here. Stop. Take a look here. 一念未曾一念而有舍离. Okay, Chinese. 舍离, leave behind, turn your back on, go away from, set aside. 而有 would do that. Has the experience of leaving behind. This is Chinese grammar we're working with here. For 未曾一念, nian. Okay, notice the Chinese character there. Notice the hanzi above, divided in half across the middle. Jin, present, right now. Xin, thought, mind, heart. This thought. In other words, if we talk about mindfulness, this is the word used for mindfulness. It's also the word used for thinking or thought or idea. Yi. Okay, students of Chinese, what does that character mean? Come on, you've seen it before. It's not that hard. It's one. Okay, right? One stroke. So one thought. BTTS traditionally would have translated that as in a single thought, in one thought, in one, pretty much. Ceng has happened ever before. Wei, not. So, not have happened one thought. of leaving behind. So you got the Chinese here. Okay, why did I dramatize that? I like Heng Sure Kalavinka's Dharmamitra's mind moment instead of instant. So instant, our present translator here took yi nian as time, could have translated it as for even a thought. That would have been a traditional way. But we understand that Heng Sure Dharmamitra is quite the student of Nagarjuna and Vasubandhu and Middle Way, right? That teaching, consciousness only, which arises out of the Abhidharma. The Abhidharma is the Buddha's early teaching on Buddhist psychology, on the mind, and what's going on in the mind, and laying it out as a meditator would. These thought instants happen. So to have Kalavinka inject his own scholarship into the translation is progress. To say mind moment, that joins together the time reading of instant. Not even for an instant would these living beings consider leaving those bodhisattvas behind. Would the bodhisattvas to see the Buddhas and never turn away for an instant. Kalavinka, by saying mind moment, put together the two meanings of nian, this character, which can mean mindfulness or a single thought. It's a noun. It also can mean to remember, right? So I think that's a really interesting blended choice for Wei Ceng Yi Nian, not even for a mind moment. Our translation, instant, has only the time element. We would say, oh, not for a split second. You wouldn't look away even for a split second. And mind moment allows, puts the time into the mind instead of making it external. 大家可能要问为什么法师这么注意这个？因为我们恒寿法师 Kalavinka 嘉陵拼切他所翻的英文就 mind moment， 就是说一念那么念这个字到底是外边过了一念，有你看一个钟，一个表 ，right 手表，叮那个表上就动这样子，那是外在的时间的分别，是不是一分一秒一刻怎么样？那么到底这个念字怎么翻呢？也可以说好像纪念也是 memory， 我不记得，我忘了，我还在念，也是正念，好像 mindfulness 这个的。不过呢，因为恒守法师他是那个中论，鸠摩罗什法师，天亲法师的研究者，他学那个唯识论，唯识的道理，唯识宗，所以呢，那个唯识啊，那个也是玄奘大师的，他提倡的，那个是从阿毗达摩出来的一种汉传佛教的一种学派，一种思想。研究什么？阿毗达摩研究什么？是佛陀，早时的心理学。打坐的人研究，自己的心，就知道哦，原来心是怎么样转，怎么样动， 怎么样分眼耳鼻舌身意啊，分这个18界啊，这个然后呢，你能把这个心把它清净的话，那就是菩提啊。然后这个那兰陀大学的论师都把这种思想写了很多，研究很多，这可以说是佛法在印度的演变的第2个大部分，应该这么说。所以呢，把这个微增一念翻译成什么？你们还没看到，因为是在这本里边，他翻译就说 ，Not for they will never leave them for even a single mind moment。他就把念这个字也称时间的分别，时分也变成心理里边的转动，很有道理，很有意思。So the coming out of the Abhidharma, this teaching on Madhyamika and middle way teaching, and also consciousness only, arising from the Abhidharma was this profound investigation by meditators of psychology. And only because it hasn't been thoroughly translated and popularized in the West do not more people know about it. But if the psychological establishment of Western medical theory could encounter this aspect of Buddhist psychology, it would just turn it on its ear. It would be just my Midwestern idioms. It'd be a barn burner. It would really excite people to discover how profoundly millions of men and women in the 2,500 years of Buddhist history have discovered in the mind all these similar principles. So yeah, that's exciting. So to say, okay, mind moment for Kalavinka to translate that Yin as mind moment, I think is a real step forward. 好的 moving on, let's go down. 譬如真如遍一切处，善根回向，亦复如是，超出三界，周遍一切，习得自在。Just as true suchness pervades all places, so too do Bodhisattva's dedication of good roots do that. In that, they transcend the 3 realms and pervade all places, having total self-mastery. Oh boy. Kalavinka. Just as true suchness pervades all places, so too it is with Bodhisattva's dedications of roots of goodness, for they transcend the 3 realms of existence, reach everywhere, and enable sovereign mastery in all things. Okay, that's the last one that has to do with time. It's now moving on to the material world, phenomena and things, places. Having total self-mastery, 习得自在, sovereign mastery. This word 自在 is a big deal. This is a challenging idea to translate. And it's important in Buddhism because there are many Buddhas whose names include the word 自在. This arose strongly as we translated the Buddhas from the 10,000 Buddhas Repentance, which is now available, by the way. When many Buddhas have the name 自在, how do you translate it? And as I mentioned before, I don't want to hash over familiar ground, but even Master Hua, even Shifu, contributed to the discussion of how do you translate 自在. And it's one of the few times that we've said, 师父, thank you for that English, but not quite. 师父 said, comfortable, 自在. And we know, for example, Guanyin Bodhisattva, Guan Shi Yin is also Guan 自在, Avalokita and Avalokiteshvara, two different meanings of the same bodhisattva, two different names of the same bodhisattva. Guan 自在菩萨, 行深般若波罗蜜多时，照见五蕴皆空，度一切苦厄. So that name of Guanyin occurs in the Heart Sutra. Are familiar? Heart Sutra. So it's Guan 自在菩萨. Shifu said, that's comfortable. And we said, comfortable actually resonates in a different way. We said, well, what about free and easy? Well, free and easy resonates in a different way. What about free? Just free, freedom, bodhisattva. Also not. So back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And so if you look at the Chinese, again, we've gone over this before, self, at, present, self there, but that can't be right because the Buddha exploded the self, deconstructed the self, saw through the illusion of the self, saw the illusory self, and was no longer bound by it, transcended the self and reached great compassion. So self-mastery, sovereign mastery, sovereign means in chart king, the one who gives the orders. You listen to the sovereign. So self-mastery, you're in charge of yourself now. You don't have afflictions anymore. All of that is involved in 自在. How do we translate it in English? This discussion that we've been having inside of our translation group pretty much says that it should be self-mastery. That's, I think, what we're going to stick with as a Buddha's name. So, 就说自在这个字，我们怎么翻译啊？不容易。就在学术界，在中国这个学术界也大家都不知道应该怎么翻自在，有写了很多论文、很多篇、很多书。这个free and easy, comfortable, sovereign self-mastery, 很多建议。为什么讨论这个呢？因为现在也在翻译我们的那个万佛宝忏那个本子，就是《佛说佛明经》，很多佛陀名字都包括“自在”两个字，所以我们怎么翻呢？要翻译正确。那么Kalavinka 就说 sovereign mastery， self mastery， 可能现在我们大概就 self mastery 就偏最多最普通的翻译。If anybody has any brilliant ideas on better translations, let us know. 好的，时间分10分，现在过了，现在到了法，还有这个入世的道理。Okay, ready? Here we go. A little bigger for everybody. Here we are. 譬如真如住有无法。善根回向一复如是，了达一切有无之法，毕竟清净。Just as true suchness abides in both existence and non-existence, so too does Bodhisattva's dedication of good roots do the same, in that they understand that both existence and non-existence are ultimately pure. Just as true suchness abides in both existent and non-existent dharmas, so too it is with their dedications of roots of goodness, for they fully penetrate the ultimate purity of all existent and non-existent dharmas. Okay, the dedication of the roots of goodness penetrates the ultimate purity of all existent and non-existent dharmas. Okay, that is clearly an Avatamsaka statement, isn't it? Recognize that anywhere. What does it mean? You have to be a bodhisattva to penetrate the ultimate. Okay. The word tong, 了达一切. Understand. Okay. So it's ultimately pure. It is. Moving on. 譬如真如体性清净，上根回向，亦复如是，能以方便即入道法，尽致一切诸菩萨行。Just as the essence of true suchness is intrinsically pure, so too is Bodhisattva's dedication of good roots, in that, through skillful accumulation of aids to the path, they purify all Bodhisattva practices. Okay. Just as the essential nature of true suchness is pure, so too it is with his dedications of roots of goodness. For they are able to use skillful means to accumulate the dharmas of the aids to enlightenment and purify all the bodhisattva practices. Okay. Aids to enlightenment. What are we talking about? Take a look here. These three characters, 助道法. I first became familiar with these when bowing to the city of 10,000 Buddhas. When Master Hua would come down to Los Angeles to lecture, oh boy, that was a big deal. That was kind of like a Dharma holiday for two bowing monks. Someone would come along and say, oh, this weekend Shifu's going to LA. Mark your spot and get your sleeping bags and come down to LA. If we were close enough, we would turn our Plymouth around and drive the car down. But as we got further up, people would stop by and pick us up, and we would jump in the car, drive to LA. Shifu would fly down, and we would get to Gold Wheel Temple in South Pasadena and bow on the sidewalk on Huntington Boulevard, Huntington Drive, and then keep track. We would keep track of the number of bows we made. And then when it was time for Shifu to lecture, we would come inside under a roof for the first time in months, and we would listen to Shifu speak Dharma, and then go back out and sleep either in the car or in the garage, and then continue bowing the next day as keeping our bowing schedule, but adding Shifu's lectures. Oh, it was just such a wonderful thing, because to not have access to your teacher when you're facing all kinds of situations, internal and external, all day long, it was nice to have that cloud of support, sweet dew to lean on. So in the morning, Heng Chao and I were in the habit of practicing Taiji Chuan, because Marty Heng Chao would teach me Guangping Yang Taiji, and we would practice, and we had the back of the monastery to do it, the driveway and the garage and all. And one morning, after Taiji, Heng Sure was practicing standing meditation called 传功, where you stand like that. And Shifu came out of the back door of the monastery, and he too took the 传功 pose and said, 这个跟参禅打坐道理是一样的。他说这是一个很如法的助道法，你们可以这样行。他说 So Shifu said, the principles of standing meditation, part of the universal post, it was called, this practice of Taiji Chuan, is the same principle as Chan meditation. He said, if you can master this, it will definitely help you along the way. This is a dharma that aids the path, a 助道法. And Shifu he kind of was rocking back and forth, and ho, you do this more, he said. And of course, that kind of support for Marty was just invaluable, because he had come to Gold Mountain Monastery when he was doing standing meditation. He first saw the poster that advertised the Great Compassion mantra session at Gold Mountain that Alan Nicholson, Gui, had organized for his father who had cancer. That was how Marty discovered Gold Mountain, was when standing. So, dharmas that aid the way. Heng Sure translated as aids to enlightenment. Okay, Tao is enlightenment. Yeah, that's a little bit liberal translation, wide-ranging, but it's not wrong. So, dharmas that aid the Tao, that help the Tao, is a more literal translation. So, okay, now what is a 助道法? What is not a 助道法? It has to bear on the mind. It has to have the principle of purifying, simplifying, returning, clarifying. Then it is a 助道法. So, 我就说那个 how much did I translate any of that story? 还没有翻译哈，就说三步一拜就是朝拜万佛城的时候，有的时候上人都会下去洛杉矶一个周末。我们很兴奋，因为有机会接近善知识我们会有人下来告诉我们，我们就注意已经拜到哪里就放一个石头，或者知道了就上车开回去。到了金轮寺，我们继续拜佛，在这个金轮寺的人行道前边，那个金轮寺前边的人行道在那儿，拜了多少拜就注意了，然后周末过了就回去，那个离开那个地方，可以继续1、2、3，用我们的念珠，拜了多少拜就走那么多，然后减少10%你不要欺骗了好了，那么在金轮寺时间表，我们的功课一样的，就是加进去听师父讲经。哇，太好，那个是快乐的不得了，有这么一个机会因为在马路旁边拜了，很多事情发生，就依靠自己的智慧很有限，那么有善知识在旁边，那就容易了，可以依赖善知识。好了，第二天早上我们还没开始拜之前，就打太极拳，然后太极拳打完了就串功，在那儿 standing meditation。那个时候师父从后边那个门出来了，他看到我们传功， 师傅也在那儿就传功，他说好的，好啊，他说这是一个助道法，他说你能成功在这个传功，跟打坐参禅道理是一样的。他说这是一种要用功这是很好的助道法。他说，那么 Marty 因为恒潮他教我怎么样打太极，他是已经是一个会教这种的武术，他听到师傅赞叹这个传功，当然高兴的不得了，然后他就知道要在这方面用功。那么什么叫助道法，什么不是助道法呢？如果帮忙我们专心，如果令你认识自己的念头再起来了，你可以在那儿站着，就可以有三昧，知道自己的心在那儿做什么呢？这样是入定，是助道法往里边这个精神回归，那就是可用的。We are currently here at Gold Coast Dharma Realm. We are teaching a class in italic calligraphy, in handwriting, using the broad pen to make letter forms that enable us to, with our very own hands, communicate ABCs in a beautiful format that people enjoy writing and enjoy reading. And we had class yesterday, and one of the students mentioned, they said, wow, this is when everyone is looking at how the B and the P flip over from the shape of the A. So inside the B and the P, there's an A shape, but just flipped around. It's just everyone is, even with their children and parents and children, monks and nuns, laymen, laywomen, all with their hands, their eyes, and their minds concentrating. The person said, this is just like Chan. He said, if you have any false thoughts, suddenly you're not paying attention. So I think calligraphy is another kind of martial arts. And our old teacher of Guangping Yang, Taiji Chuan, Zhang Yunzhong, Lao Shifu, he said, as a teacher of martial arts, from Shaolin to Bagua, to from Dayan Qigong to Guangping Yang style, he said, of all the various kinds of martial arts, he said, calligraphy is the one you can practice longest, he said. Now, of course, he was talking about brush calligraphy, Chinese writing, but his principle was correct in that when you are, that tip of the brush brings together your eyes, your breath, your body, and your mind. And if you can do that single-mindedly, of course, the calligraphy is wonderful, but the effect on the body is focusing. You bring it back to a single principle, to a single point. And then if you can take that E back to Ling, back to zero, then you've really got something. 昨天我们这里在济南法界楞严省寺，我们在学习什么书法，英文的书法英文的书法就说像什么，像这个英文的书法就这个华严经，我们学的是这个体，这种手体，这个叫 Chancery Italic. I'll give you another one. 这是原始的，这是我们的样本。Okay, here's a sample of Chancery Italic. 这个是用硬笔，不是软笔，不是 like 像一个毛笔这是用放性这个硬笔用墨水来写我们现在教的是这个。 So we're learning this, and 我们昨天有一位学生，他就说哦，这样子呢，他说你要把这个 A B C D E 这个每一个字字体的每个字那个字母的每个字都要如法来写。他说没时间打妄想。他说因为手还有气还有眼睛都要注意了，所以我们在练习，在课室里边上课的时候练习，大家不出声，有爸爸妈妈，有孩子，有弟弟哥哥姐姐妹妹在那儿，一个字一个字写，很好很好，助道之法。其实我们的太极打太极的老师傅蒋民仲老师傅，已经往生，他会教这个广平养太极，他会教八卦形意，他会教那个大眼气功，所有这些武术的方式。他说最好的武术是什么？你能练得最久到高龄是什么？他说毛笔写字书法，因为那个笔尖，你的眼睛，你的气喘气呼吸气，你的身体都集中一个地方。他说那个没时间打妄想，这是最好的武术。他说助道之法，Dharmas that aid the way. Okay, moving on. Take a look here. 譬如真如体性明洁，善根回向，亦复如是。令诸菩萨悉得三昧明解之心。Just as the essence of true suchness is intrinsically bright and immaculate, so too is their dedication of good roots, in that it causes all bodhisattvas to attain the bright, immaculate mind of samadhi. I'll vote for that. Just as the essential nature of true suchness is radiantly immaculate, so too it is with bodhisattvas' dedication of roots of goodness, for they enable all bodhisattvas to acquire the radiantly immaculate mind of samadhi. I like that. Radiantly immaculate. Bright, immaculate. 明洁, okay, radiantly immaculate. Samadhi is that way, I think. I hope, so I hear. 譬如真如体性无垢，善根回向，亦复如是。远离诸垢，满足一切，诸清净意。Just as the essence of true suchness is intrinsically stainless, so too is their dedication of good roots, in that it leaves all defilements far behind and fulfills all pure intentions. Just as the essential nature of true suchness is free from defilement, so too it is with bodhisattvas' dedication of roots of goodness, for they abandon all defilement and completely fulfill all pure intentions. Okay, clearly these two these two branches sprouted from the same roots. Shifu's lectures. BTTs. Here we go. 譬如真如无我我所，善根回向，亦复如是。以无我我所清净之心，充满十方诸佛国度。Just as true suchness is devoid of the notions of me and mine, so too is their dedication of good roots, in that the pure mind, devoid of the notions of me and mine, fills all Buddha lands throughout the 10 directions. Palavinka. Just as true suchness is devoid of any self or possessions of a self, so too it is with bodhisattva's dedication of roots of goodness, for they fill all Buddha lands of the 10 directions with a pure mind, free from a self or possessions of a self. Okay, this is why we look at other translations, because I and mine. We in English, colloquial English, me and mine, we and ours, right? Not I and mine, me and mine. So I've already varied from this translation. And the Chinese is 我所, self and what belongs to the self, me and mine. Okay, Kalavinka used that tradition, that earlier translation, which was self or possessions of the self. Possessions of the self. So what would that be? You could go in many, many directions. What does the self possess? The self possesses all your troubles. The self possesses all the blues, all your afflictions, all your anxieties, all your hang-ups. They're all possessions of the self. If we can get rid of the self and not see it as that important, as the center of the whole world, just think how free and easy, how zizai we would be, right? So possessions of the self is pretty good. Me and mine, it's in the right direction, but it's not as illustrative. It doesn't help us understand it as well as self and possessions of the self. What the Buddha did, the Buddha's big achievement was seeing through the self. It took him 6 years of hard work and learning and then discarding all kinds of yogas, all kinds of crazy methods that didn't work, and finally hit upon lighting up the mind and seeing through the self and the possessions of the self. 这个我所怎么翻译呢？很重要，有2个，就I and mine, me and mine，然后 Kalavinka 他就说 self and possessions of the self，就是那个我相，还有我相所集的很多东西，包括什么？包括烦恼，包括问题，包括忧郁症，包括一切心脏病。精神病，所有那就属于我相。如果我们能把这个我相，我见，把它看空，那烦恼没有地方住了，就没了，我们的生命就会过得好自在。OK， 佛陀呢，他在6年在哪里？修苦行呢，就是把这个我相我见看空看破，不容易6年修苦行还是打不破放不下，究竟成功。所以呢，我们现在就还是研究佛陀他修的道，他讲的法，因为这个我相我见看破放下换什么呢？换给就放得下，提得起什么呢？大慈悲，同体大悲。Okay, we'll continue right here next time. We've got something very interesting today. Here we go. I want to get to our story. Let's see here. Okay. All right, Linda left a comment. Thank you. Yeah, good. Okay, I will save that and read it. Okay, take a look here. So now Master Xuanzang is actually has reached India, and he's starting to encounter the traces of the Buddhists who followed the Buddha historically in greater numbers. And when he's still up in Afghanistan, when he's still, in Khotan, in the trade the Silk Route regions. Only because he traveled that way do we know about those individuals and those teachers and those countries and etc. Now he has reached India and the land of the teachers whom everyone remembers because they were actually part of the mainstream Indian Buddhist culture that arose after the Buddha. So today it's Vasubandhu. We're going to find out about him. 就说玄奘大师他在那个过了高山，就到了阿富汗呢，到了这个丝绸这些国家，遇到某某大德，某某国王啊什么的，他，如果你不是跟他行那么远的路，到那么这个偏僻的地方，你没办法知道的。现在呢，大师已经到了印度，那他所遇到的人事，还有这个古迹，还有这些，就说那些地方，就是跟佛陀之后人人都知道的这些人，好比说，今天就是 Vasubandhu 世亲菩萨其中一个。Okay, so let's take a look here. Right here, starting there. 十世亲菩萨一一睿智多闻，先作阿毗达摩居舍论，破毗菩萨所执，离凹文化，西域乐图，莫不赞扬。是缘智鬼身一节讲习。At the time, Vasubandhu Bodhisattva, who was also a well-learned scholar of great wisdom, had composed the Avatamsaka Sutra to refute the theories of the Vipassana masters. It was a work of profound teachings written in a florid style, studied by all the students of the Western regions and even by the spirits and deities. Okay, we had talked about that last time. I mentioned, how did they know that the spirits and deities read Vasubandhu's book? Certainly, it's not important whether they did or not. We will certainly take it as true because it's here in the story. That's what Master Xuanzang heard. The point is that Vasubandhu charts a very interesting development of the Buddha Dharma from India onto China and now onto the West. That is to say, there was of course, there's the Buddha, and we know what he said mostly because Ananda and the early disciples, after the Buddha entered Nirvana, they took the time, finally, and from memory, wrote down what the Buddha said. So the Dharma flowed on, and 200, 300, 400, 500 years later, people applied those teachings and did critical thinking and came up with new ways to connect the principles the Buddha spoke with the times. So the important was Abhidharma, and the Abhidhammo Jusha Lun represents the thinking centuries after the Buddha, having digested what the Buddha taught and then bringing it forward again in a new way. Vasubandhu himself was someone who grew up in the teachings and outgrew the original principles and said, we have to say this in a different way. And he wrote them down. He was a really prolific writer. And he refuted some theories that had grown up and then propagated some new ones. And people read what he wrote and were really excited by his formulation. Okay? Nagarjuna Bodhisattva, the same experience. This process happened strongly in Christianity. Thomas Aquinas and all of the writers that faced off with modernity, faced off with the Renaissance, and had to come up with new ways to talk about Christianity. So the same process is happening in Buddhism. 就是说佛在2500年前讲道理，因为阿难尊者都记住佛陀入涅槃过了几百年，他们就写下那就有佛法。然后再过几百年，不同的时间、不同的人起来，他们已经吸收这种思想很久。阿毗达摩就是经论律，就是律部分还有那个论。然后有人就说那种思想现在我有另外一个方法解释，有一些慢慢的增长，我不赞成，讲的不圆满，不如法。然后那个世亲菩萨是其中一个，他就写下一种比破实论呢，就批评一些思想，赞叹另外一些思想。很多人就说哇，这个是他写的东西正法，我们用这种思想。再过这个龙树菩萨又出来了还有其他的论师，在那兰陀大学有17位大论师，他们就把过去的佛法把它新说了，就是新的表示然后那种法到了中国又改变，玄奘大师来了，是就在那个时候。The important part of this to why I'm taking a moment to talk about Vasubandhu is he is one of the important Shastra masters who took the Buddha's teaching and at Nalanda Buddhist University took those principles and created a new approach to Buddhism. There were 17 great Shastra masters who at Nalanda reformed the Dharma that then Master Xuanzang came and picked up, brought back to China. The Chinese did it again with Master Zhi creating the Tiantai, and the Avatamsaka school masters creating the Shensho. And that's what Shifu studied and presented to us. 好的，再来。众贤兰而 let's see， 众贤兰而兴奋，又12年，谈思作，俱舍宝论，25000颂，80万言，造气，欲世亲，面定是非，未果而终。When Sanghabhadra read it, he felt indignant, and for 12 years he engaged in composing the Abhidharma Nyaya Nusara of 25,000 stanzas and 800,000 words. Having composed the Shastra, he wanted to meet Vasubandhu to discuss the matter in person, but he died before he could fulfill his intention. 世亲后见其论，叹有之解，言其私利，不减必颇杀，至众也。虽然甚顺我意，以名顺正理论，随依行言。Afterwards, Vasubandhu read the Shastra, all 800,000 words. He said, good work. The author did not have less perception than the other Vipasha masters. Notice that's faint praise, right? And he also remarked that since it was quite coincident with his own views, it could be styled as Abhidharma Nyayana Sara, Nyayana Nusara, Abhidharma Nyaya Nusara. And thus it was also called. 众贤死后，于安莫罗林中，其速笃钵，今有健在。Okay. After the death of Sanghabhadra, a stupa was in existence which had been built from him in a manga grove. Okay. Now, I wanted to, we're talking a lot about Shastras because, why? This is why Master Shenzong went to India. This is what he was looking for. Take a look at Vasubandhu. There's a really good article here in Wikipedia. His dates were 4th and 5th century of the Common Era. So late 4th century, so that would be 380, 390 to the 5th century, 400 something. He was a monk, he's a scholar, wrote a commentary to the Abhidharma and converted to Mahayana. That's the thing. Vasubandhu started out as Theravada thinker based in Pali and that thought, those texts. But he and Asanga, Tianqin, Tianqi Pusa Sangha, founded Yogacara. And that was the biggest change, okay? He then went on to write the Xiangzong principles, which correspond to contemporary psychology as well, contemporary Western philosophy. He wrote commentaries, logic, arguments, and poetry as well. He was a profound, influential thinker at Nalanda University, and they're the 17 Nalanda masters. If you look at the Japanese, the Jodo Shinshu, their Pure Land, they take him as the second patriarch. Our Chan school takes him as 21st patriarch in India. So the point of bringing him forward is to say, here is Shenzong discovering a teacher who is influential to this day in our thinking. Let me show you. Let me translate that. 所以呢，这个世亲菩萨，他呢本来是小乘，本来是南传的思想，他是和尚，在印度第4、第5世纪，在印度，可是他改信，他就舍小归大，舍血归正，然后写了很多非常重要的书。他在藏传也是非常重要。这个日本的信宗那个周周新属净土信宗很尊崇他，说他应该说是第2个祖师，禅宗第21。我们禅宗从佛开始一直到达摩祖师28，他是21，在印度。很重要，很重要。这个世亲菩萨，然后呢，如果各位想知道英语的他怎么样呢 ？If we want to know more about him, here's Kalavinka Press, or you can go to BuddhistText.org. Go down to the bottom. Here is Vasubandhu's treatise on the Bodhisattva Vow, Pusayen. And take a look at it. It's very interesting. You can download a sample. 各位注意哈，这个是我们的恒寿法师他所翻的这个Vasubandhu菩萨，这个世亲菩萨，他写的书，菩提心发菩提心，有大家注意哈，有简体字、繁体字2个，然后这是一个 sample， 这是一个样本啊，简体字、繁体字。这个英文。What does he write? What's it like to read Vasubandhu? Well, you got to get your mind together. You got to be ready. I respectfully pay reverence to the boundless community of past, future, and present era Buddhas, the possessors of unshakable wisdom as vast as space, the saviors of worlds, the greatly compassionate Bhagavans. There exists among the Mahavipulya teachings the most superior and sublime of dharmas, drawn from the Matrika treasury, cultivated by the Bodhisattvas and the Mahasattvas. It is the exhortation to delight in cultivating and accumulating the bases for realization of the unsurpassed Bodhi. 他就说，有大方等最上妙法，摩得亲家藏菩萨摩诃萨之所修行啊。然后就是我们可以懂这个我们恒寿法师这个 Kalavinka 他是双语，中文英文，所以呢，各位想知道世亲菩萨到底怎么样写可以到这个Can somebody maybe Yihuan, can you paste in the Buddhist texts link? I have the direct Kalavinka link. 大家可以求这个世亲菩萨他写的，在这里或者我们 BTTS 那边也可以找到了。到了下边最后一个下一个 Vasubandhu's treatise on the Bodhisattva vow, bilingual. So 这个是我觉得很重要，我们用玄奘大师自己本身就把我们介绍这个印度的论师。Okay, BuddhistTexts.org. Go to bookstore Kalavinka Press. Here it is. You'll find it right number 15. 第15. Is this it? Yeah, that takes us right back there. Okay, chat. There you are. Okay. We need to dedicate merit. Thank you all for joining. We will continue next week. May every living being, our minds as one and radiant with light, share the fruits of peace with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see how hands and hearts can find in giving unity, may our minds awake to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward. May all who sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light dispel the darkness of our endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. And then before we end, give everybody a chance to bow to Master Shenhua. Here we go. Bow in respect to the Venerable Master. See you all next week. Ami Tofo, everybody. Bye-bye now.
Thank you， 是法师。
阿弥陀佛。Welcome.